Ourselves a 3-game slate on tap for tonight in MLB DFS, which could mean that the pickings would be slim, but actually it's not too bad. There are 3 legitimate pitchers who I don't mind using, so despite the fact it's a 3-game slate, it's actually one that I feel pretty okay about. So let's break it down and answer those questions to get you set for tonight. Welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. That's right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope pages. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Here to take a look at tonight's 3-game slate, which should be pretty interesting. Lock is set for 7:35 for tonight, and it's honestly not that bad. Cody, the first comment over on YouTube, says crazy, isn't it? And yeah, it is pretty crazy to have a 3-game slate where I actually feel like I can play things pretty straight up. Usually if it's a 3-game slate, I'm altering my process, lowering my standards with pitchers and hitters, but here it's not that bad. So we're going to take a look at this slate for today. But as always, a reminder to get your questions in to get set for tonight's slate, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, it does not matter. You can get those questions in. We'll answer all of them live right here on the air. And also because it is kind of a weird MLB slate, I am okay talking some NFL if you want to, preferably for the 2-game slate. I don't care about season long enough to answer season long questions, but we can talk about the 2-game NFL DFS slate for tonight if you want to discuss that. So honestly, we're having a bit more a free forum for today than usual, as opposed to just focusing on MLB. We can talk some NFL if you would like to as well. The 3 pitchers I like for tonight that I was discussing before are in order: Clayton Kershaw, Jose Berrios, and Dinelson Lamet. Robert Ewing asked on Facebook about the best pitcher for tonight. So I would say it's Kershaw. I think that the reason I like Kershaw is because he is the only guy of those 3 who is not facing an elite level offense. The Padres are very good. I'd rather face them as a lefty than a righty, though. And Kershaw is a lefty, which helps neutralize a couple of their good hitters. Obviously, Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado are going to be awesome, but they're going to be good against righties, too. So I would say I'd rather face him as a lefty. And Kershaw, overall this year, 3.25 skill interactive ERA, 28% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate. I would note that the Dodgers still have not confirmed that Kershaw is starting. If you go to their probable pitchers page, there is nobody on it, which is kind of suspicious. I've been searching Twitter throughout the day today to see if there's any news that Kershaw, he got Thanos or something like that. But so far, Kershaw still exists. So he's my number 1 pitcher for today. Facing the Padres, I would put him 1. I'm going to put Berrios 2. The reason that I do not put Berrios 1, despite the fact that he's facing a higher strikeout team, is that in his career, he's had some really funky home road splits, and he's on the road tonight in Chicago. So that's a little bit scary to me. And I am a little bit wary of him as a result. But he's been using a sinker more of his past 5 starts, 34% strikeout rate, still at 12% walk rate, which is higher than you'd like, but a 32% hard hit rate. So I think that Berrios is interesting. I just can't put him as high as Kershaw. Dinelson Lamet's facing the Dodgers. That's going to be the major blemish with him, but he's really good. So I'd say all 3 of these guys are very much in play. Renee asked for my favorite tournament pitcher of the night. I think that if you're looking for a tournament pitcher, you want to look for someone probably who is an underdog. That means that Berrios is taken off the table. It's probably going to be Lamet. I think the reason there's no sportsbook totals on this Dodgers-Padres game is that, again, they haven't confirmed Kershaw is starting, which is very weird, and it gives me a little bit of pause. But I would assume that once that line comes out, if we get Kershaw confirmed as being the starter for the Dodgers, which I'm going to assume will be happening at some point, I would assume that the Padres will be underdogs because Kershaw is starting. So I would say that Lamet would be a pretty good pitcher. I think people will be scared off by the matchup. So I do think that Dinelson Lamet, if you're looking for just a tournament pitcher from a contrarian perspective, Lamet's probably going to be the least popular of the 3 between Kershaw and Berrios and himself. So I think that that's enough where we can potentially shove him up a bit. Now, with that said, if I am throwing out a single entry dart, for me, it's still going to be Clayton Kershaw because I'm okay going with a pitcher who'll be more popular because I feel pretty good about my pitcher selection process. So, and pitchers are more predictable than batters. So I would still, like, I'm doing one single entry lineup. Me personally, I'm going Kershaw. But if you're looking for someone who may have lower popularity than he should, I would say Lamet for that. But for me, like, you can get pretty wild in tournaments if you want. My personal process is still trust the process and go with the best plays. And to me, that limits to me to just Kershaw, Berrios, or Lamet for tonight. Chip is asking about weather. It looks like the weather for the 3 games in the main slate is all okay. The one note I would say is the temperatures here, because we see in Baltimore that it's 72 degrees, it's 68 degrees in Chicago. I mistakenly said Minneapolis this morning in the podcast, but this game is in Chicago. And then it's 75 degrees in San Diego. So San Diego is actually the warmest park on the slate for tonight. We're going to see this for the rest of the year because in the Midwest, it's fall. That means things will be a bit cooler there in general. That's going to lower park factors there relative to out west, whereas out west, things will probably be more static. So I think that honestly, the park factors for tonight are all pretty even. So the weather looks good. Park factors relatively even. You can kind of just play things straight up based on the pitchers you want to target and the stacks you want to target as well. Robert asked about the best stack of the night. For me, that's going to be the Minnesota Twins facing Dylan Cease. Cease has been using his slider more often over his past. I think it's his 6 starts. 6 starts for Dylan Cease with more sliders, and that's a good pitch for him, so it's not a bad thing that Cease is using his slider more, but his peripherals in that time were still pretty rough. 5.74 skill interactive ERA, 15% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate, 42% hard hit rate. So the Twins probably going to put the ball in play a lot, and I'd bet that they do so with decent authority. They also are a heavy fly ball team. So the Twins, I would say, are going to be easily my number one stack of the night. I'd put the Braves second against Jorge Lopez, but I would put the Twins number one. The question with the Twins for tonight is whether Eddie Rosario will be able to play. He got banged up last night. He did travel with the team to Chicago for today, so it's possible he plays. If I had to bet on whether Rosario will play, I would say no. But, we're not going to bet on that, obviously. So I would say he probably doesn't play, and in that case, it's going to be one less really good hitter within this Twins lineup, but they also just got Max Kepler back. So I think the Twins are going to be my number one stack. Let's actually just experiment here a bit. Let's put Kershaw in there. I'm going to operate under the assumption that Rosario is not playing for today. Let's see if there's an update on him here. Left elbow contusion. Seems fun. So I don't know. It's possible he does play. I guess my assumption is still that he probably will not. But if we're going to go with this Twins lineup, let's go check out their numbers against righties so far this year. We're going to see that Kepler's numbers really good. So I would say if I'm going to this Twins lineup, Kepler's probably going to be the first guy who I lock in when stacking the Twins. He's $3,000. That's too cheap. I'll take that. Josh Donaldson hit a home run last night. The number's not great yet from a peripherals perspective, but it's also a sample of just 50 plate appearances. He fills third base. He's $3,100. I will take that as my number 2 guy. Now, from a salary perspective, I'd want to go with Jorge Polanco. Polanco has had bad results, though. Hard hit rate is not that high. Not a ton of fly balls, so a little bit wary there. But, again, he helps me save salary while getting exposure to the Twins. That works. I think the guy to keep an eye on here if you're looking for some value within the Twins lineup is Ismaron Gonzalez. He's been hitting a bunch of dingers recently. He's got better peripheral numbers, at least from a batted ball perspective, than Polanco. So I honestly think that if you're looking for value, Marwin Gonzalez is probably going to be a guy who stands out for tonight. $2,500 playing third base in the team that I most want to stack. And if I go with those 3 guys, $3,160 left, that gives me a lot of flexibility to go wherever I want to go. Obviously, if you know me, you know that I would go to this man Byron Buxton next. But if I'm playing things in an intelligent manner, which is rare for me, I'd probably go Miguel Sano there. So if we do that, $3,150 left, you could probably make that happen, depending on what the Braves lineup looks like. But I do think the Twins are going to be the number one stack of the day. The Braves are facing Jorge Lopez. Let's see if the Braves lineup is loaded in here. I know it's out, so I'll be able to go to the other page if it's not in there. Okay, so it is out. So let's check out if we can find some salary savers here on the Braves. Talked this morning about Nick Markakis being the lowest salaried starter, and that is unfortunately how things played out. I was hoping we might get some other value play in there, but like Markakis makes hard contact. You can't say that about everyone. He's not the most exciting guy. He doesn't generate a lot of enthusiasm on my part from a daily fantasy perspective, but hey, whatever. We'll plug him in here to get some salary savings, help us get to Kershaw. I think, though, like if you're looking at this, trying to just find players with upside who can save you a bit of salary, I'd probably wind up just going a little bit lower in the order with Duvall and Reilly. They've been guys I've used a lot over the past couple of weeks just because they're low salary exposure to a team that I've been finding myself stacking a lot. Duvall, huge fly ball rate. He has 2-3 homer games within the past month, which is nuts to think about. Austin Reilly, the strikeout rate has come down. I don't care as much about the batted ball numbers for Austin Reilly. I care about this number, the strikeout rate. And the strikeout rate for Reilly has been coming down. So I think that, let's say you are a rational human, unlike me, and you want to avoid Nick Markakis, you can do so by going at Duvall and Reilly. Now, maybe you want to lump Markakis in there and make it more of a bottom-of-the-order type stack, but I think that if you go with those two guys, you're at least setting yourself up where you can go at the batters hitting higher in the order. Now, among the higher salaried option on the Braves, the question is, who do we prioritize? Obviously, you're going to go with Freeman and Acuna first and second, but they're also, their salaries do account for that. There's a reason these dudes are super high salaried. Acuna is $4,900. I probably can't get there with Kershaw. That's one of the downsides of being as focused on high salaried pitchers as I am, is it often means I have to avoid the most fun players in the teams that I'm stacking. And that means that it means less Ronald Acuna Jr. for me, which is a bummer because I like rooting for him and I like watching him play. I'm probably realistically not going to get there unless the Twins give me some magic gift with some crazy low salaried pitcher for tonight. So probably not going to get there, but you never know. Travis d'Arnaud, batting in the middle of the order, 51% hard hit rate against righties, a 32% fly ball rate, really good results. I'd want for the fly ball rate to be a little bit higher, but I do think that there is at least enough there where we can go. Dansby Swanson also making good contact. Again, not a ton of fly balls. So I think there is a defense to going with the guys in the lower part of the order, going with Markakis, Duvall, and Reilly. And then maybe try and, if we go with Freddie Freeman, let's see what we're at there if we do that. 28.75. If we put Ismaron Gonzalez in there, we can probably make that work with a twin stack. So I think that I'm willing to use Nick Markakis. I don't blame you if you're not. It might be the optimal way to play DFS. So you might be very smart to avoid Nick Markakis. But if he allows me to get upside elsewhere in my lineup, I'll take it. So I'm going to use Nick Markakis tonight, and hopefully, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It could be very stupid, but whatever. I'm willing to use him for tonight. Michael says, Kershaw plus Braves and Orioles stack equals easy money. Yes, I think that the Orioles are my number 3 stack of the night. They are trailing the Twins. So it's Twins 1, Braves 2, Orioles 3. The reason I'm lower on the Orioles is that Touki Toussaint doesn't allow a lot of balls in play. And I think that I should just have this on my sheet, but one thing I've considered doing is having another column right here that has number of balls in play allowed, just subtracting strikeout rate and walk rate from 100. And when we do that for Toussaint, it would be, these are his numbers as a starter. We'd see that he allows a ball in play only about 60% of the time, and that's going to be lower than Dylan Cease, who's around 75%. I'm doing quick math, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Jorge Lopez, also around 75%. That's why I prefer the Braves and the Twins, and that's why I'm lower on the Orioles than I am on those two teams. However, Toussaint, there's a reason he was sent to the alternate location. There's a reason he has been out of the rotation for almost a month now, and it's because he got shelled. The results, or the peripherals, were interesting. The results, not as interesting. 7.89 ERA. I think he's better than that 7.89 ERA, but he also might not be as good as a 4.49 skill interactive ERA. So it's kind of a balance there for sure. And that's why the O's work. The other reason why I'm lower on the O's and the Twins and the Orioles, the Braves, despite the fact they saved me a lot of salary, is that they don't have my favorite hitter, Anthony Santander. Losing him, I think, is a downgrade to the entire offense. The other issue I run into with the Orioles is just finding players I actively want to use within their team. Santander is someone I was totally okay using. I thought he was really fun, and he's someone that I actively kind of wanted to use. That's just not the case for a lot of guys within this Orioles lineup. So, I think that DJ Stewart is someone I'm willing to use. Let's see if their lineup is out here, see if Stewart is in there. I'm expecting him to bat around third or fourth, most likely, but not a guarantee because he doesn't always play. But because Toussaint's a righty, I'd expect him to be in there, and lineup is not out yet, so we can't do a nose lineup, but I think that Stewart would probably play, and he's a good one-off in the outfield if you want to go that direction, but I also think that he's probably, you got some news on DJ Stewart. That can't be good. Probably got DFA'd or something while I was talking. Okay, no, it's an analysis thing. We're good. He didn't. I always get worried that I'm going to talk up someone who gets DFA'd. I think I did that with Matt Adams once, so we'll just cross our fingers that there are no DFAs for DJ Stewart. So Stewart, I think, works. $2,900, probably going to bat third or fourth. Good fly ball rate against righties. That'll definitely work. But again, cross Santander off this list because he's on the injured list. He's done for the year. We can't use him. How many guys are there on this team who you realistically want to use? Some of them have good results, but it's hard for me to get there. So I am going to stack the Orioles for tonight because, again, it's a small slate. I've got to go somewhere, but they're not a team I'm actively seeking out over the Twins and the Braves. As a reminder, get those questions in to get us set forward tonight. We can talk pitchers. We can talk stacks. I think because this is a 3-game slate, again, I'm also willing to talk more about process. If you want to talk more general MLB DFS questions, things that have been on your mind as you've been playing throughout this year, whatever it may be, hit us up on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope. We'll get those questions on the air. Also, while I'm here, quick reminder that tomorrow is our first waiver wire Q&A with myself and JJ Zachariason, breaking down the best waiver ads that you have for this week across the NFL. That'll be at 3:30. The MLB show will still be at 4 o'clock, just following after, breaking down a 12-game slate for tomorrow. It's Yu Darvish Day tomorrow, so it's always a good day. Back at 4 o'clock for that, but the waiver wire Q&A will start at 3:30 in these same areas. Kevin has a question. Best single entry stack. So I'm going to go with the Twins again. I know the Twins are not under the radar by any means. I would expect they're probably one of the top stacks. But I think the good thing with them is that people are going to see that Dylan Cease has this ERA that's in the threes. I think it might be actually in the low threes. Hopefully that'll scare some people off. But the other reason why I like the Twins from a single entry perspective is that I really want to use Clayton Kershaw as my pitcher in single entry, and the Twins help me do that. Yeah, 3.33 ERA here for Dylan Cease. So my hope is that my hope is that people avoid the Twins because Dylan Cease's ERA is low. They're not going to be under the radar. I would never try to sell you on that. That's not going to happen. They have a very high implied total. They're going to be popular. I'm hoping that popularity is lower than it usually would be just because Cease's ERA. So I'm going to say, Kevin, my favorite single entry stack is the Twins. Once again, Kepler, the top priority for me there. Ismaron Gonzalez, hopefully in there as a value play, and we'll see what's popping outside of that. Cody, what is the best to do lineup stack-wise? Do 3 different lines with each stack? I think you might be talking about multi-entry there, Cody, so if you can give me more clarification if you mean multi-entry versus single entry, but I think what you may be going for there is how do you fill out a lineup from a stacking perspective. For me, I always want to try to get as few one-offs in my team as possible. If I can get a pitcher with 2 separate 4-player stacks, that to me is going to be the optimal because then I have no one-offs and I am relying on hitters doing well against just 2 different pitchers. If I can narrow it down to needing 2 pitchers to do poorly, that's going to be better than narrowing it down to 3 or 4 pitchers. So to me, the optimal approach is always going to be having as stacky of a team as you can possibly get. It's a very stupid word, but as stacky of a team as you can get, whether that be 4-4, 4-3-1, 422 is I think one. Kenyatta Storin again. I mentioned this a couple times, but he did a study over on numberFire, got some data from FanDuel, and looked at the best stacking combinations. I think 422 is actually pretty good. It's not one I tend to utilize myself all that often because, again, I just want 2 offenses to go off rather than 3. But I'm pretty sure I graded out pretty well. So maybe I'm just dumb. But I think that I do tend to go I think that the key is always to have at least 1 4-player stack, and then you have flexibility in what you do after that. So, Cody, if that's not what you're asking, let me know and clarify, and I'll try to answer that. But I think that stacking's a huge thing to consider. So to me, like, in my brain, the order of things for when trying to fill out one lineup is I decide my pitcher first because pitcher is the most important thing when it comes to MLB DFS. You got to know what your pitcher is before you do anything else because you have to know what salary you've left on the table. And pitchers are easier to predict than stacks, at least for me. I would assume that's true for everyone else too because pitchers are just less volatile than offenses. That's why I decide the pitcher first. So when Kevin was asking about single entry stack for today, I had to figure out what my pitcher was first. My pitcher is Clayton Kershaw, and I had to dictate my stacks around Clayton Kershaw being my pitcher. That'll dictate everything else. So I think that if you're asking about the order in which I fill out a lineup, I start pitcher first, the 4-player stack second, and then go from there. If I have to go, yeah, okay. So Cody says that's what you're talking about. Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. I want the pitcher first. I want to go number 1 stack second, and I want to go number 2 stack third. If you're doing multi-entry, we haven't really talked about this, but one thing that I will do is I will actually go to my sheet and I will write out different combinations. Because that's the other thing that's in play for multi-entries. I want to make sure I hit the right combination. So let's say for tonight, you like the same pitchers and stacks that I do, and you want to do multi-entry. The way that I would do this is I will physically write out Kershaw, Orioles, Braves. Then I'll go Kershaw, Orioles, Twins. Then I'll go Kershaw, Braves, Twins. I want to make sure that I hit all the combinations that I like. And the reason that I write it out like this is because I want to make sure it's just easier for me to see it. I'm a more visual person. I want to see it to know that I'm hitting those combinations and making sure I'm doing it this way. But it does revolve around the idea of having a 4-player stack with another 3 to 4-player stack. And that's the way that works. And then I go with Barrios, and I would just kind of copy and paste this exact same thing if I want to do the same number of lineups as Barrios. So I think that's actually a really helpful thing to think about if you're multi-entering is think about things in terms of combinations. This is the same thing when it comes to NFL. I'll have I don't have my sheet up here, but for NFL, I have all the positions written out, and what I'll do is I'll fill out different game stacks within that lineup. So for yesterday, I was big on the Raiders-Panthers game. Derek Carr didn't do much, but a lot of my lineups to start with Derek Carr paired with Henry Ruggs and Christian McCaffrey. And then I would write out, or CMC, and I'd also write out the other combinations. So I go Carr, Ruggs, if I could spell right, and DJ Moore. I think that's a key way to think about things when you're multi-entering is think about the combinations that you want to get. I want to make sure that I have the right combinations. So if the Twins and the Orioles are the teams that go off, I want to make sure I have those 2 teams paired with my top pitchers of the night. I think that's a really helpful way. For me, it helps to write it out. Maybe you don't have to write it out, but I do. So I would consider, whether it's physical pen and paper or just having things where you can sort things, seeing where the combinations are, making sure you hit the combinations that you want. And if you're doing a 10 max tournament, where you can put in up to 10 entries, I think that's definitely critical there. So would recommend writing things out so you can kind of see what combinations you have and what combinations you don't have, because combinations are another key thing when it comes to all forms of DFS, not just MLB. That is all the time that we have for today, but I want to, again, thank you all for tuning in. Tomorrow's scheduling reminder, we'll be live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern with JJ Zachariason and myself running through your waiver wire questions, getting you set for week number 2, reacting to week number 1. That is at 3:30. That stream will just continue over into our MLB DFS stream. That is at 4 p.m. right here in the same stream on FanDuel, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages. So make sure you are subscribed wherever your choice streaming option is. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, whatever it is, make sure you're subscribed so you get notifications as we go live each and every day. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, from the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. If you have additional questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Otherwise, let's just have some fun. Let's watch some baseball. Let's watch some football for tonight. Let's win some money. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.